goes out to the one I love.
It is true that oftentimes the audience defines the meaning of a song. When R.E.M. released The One I Love on the Document album in 1987, it became their first major hit, reaching number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was embraced by the mainstream as a love song. But it's actually anything but a love song, and Michael Stipe has said that he thought it was downright brutal. But people still play it at weddings and dedicate it to their loved ones, never mind the truth about the lyrics. Let's get to the bottom of it in this episode of the Behind the Song podcast. And if you like it, hit subscribe and let us know in the comments. The Document album, their fifth, was very different from what R.E.M. had released before. They'd first eked out a charting single from their debut album, Murmur, with the song Radio Free Europe, which peaked at number 78 on the Billboard chart after it was re-recorded and released to sound more 80s with a big gated snare drum back in 1983, which was done, by the way, without the band's knowledge or blessing by their record label at the time, IRS Records. Their debut was met with critical acclaim, and the albums that followed, Reckoning, Fables of the Reconstruction, and Life's Rich Pageant, also had singles that charted, but left R.E.M. firmly in the college rock category. Document was a different beast altogether, a departure from their more lo-fi earlier works completely. It's the first album co-produced by Scott Litt, who became sort of their George Martin. He produced 6 of their albums in total, starting with this one, during what was their most successful period. Litt first worked with the band when he produced their song Romance for the Made in Heaven movie soundtrack, a quirky 1987 romantic comedy about two souls who meet in heaven and then try to reconnect when they're reborn on Earth, with a cool soundtrack that included R.E.M. and Neil Young. The film didn't exactly blow up at the box office, but the partnership between Litt and R.E.M. really was kind of a match made in heaven for how the band's sound changed under his production. Document was produced to sound big. Big pounding drums played by Bill Berry, loud guitars with big muscular riffs played by Peter Buck, and crucially, for the first time, Michael Stipe's vocals were up front and center, and he wasn't mumbling through his lyrics. He was singing really clearly, which makes the fact that The One I Love is so misunderstood even wilder. The song is a deeply cynical take on love, with lyrics that come from the mindset of a people user, someone who is using another person as a distraction, with no real transformative love there at all. There's an element of subversive control going on in this song, where the connection is really just surface level by design, just enough to keep the other person around until a new plaything comes along. Hardly wedding material as far as lyrical content goes. There are only 3 verses in the song. The first 2 are identical, and the third verse makes a simple lyric change that really reveals the manipulative darkness about this particular love affair. The first 2 verses go like this. This one goes out to the one I love. This one goes out to the one I've left behind. A simple prop to occupy my time. This one goes out to the one I love. The all-powerful chorus of the song holds the distinction of being just one word, fire. If you look at that lyrical choice, like the element that it is, a powerful, dangerous thing, you can infer the primal root of the emotion attached to this love interest. Nothing more than burning desire that will consume and then move on. Fire is repeated over the backing vocal of "She's coming down on her own now. She's coming down on her own," sung by bassist Mike Mills, almost as if to say, it's her fault, deflecting personal responsibility in the heat of that all-consuming fire. Classic narcissism. The third verse is almost exactly like the first 2, but instead of singing a simple prop to occupy my time, which is insulting enough, Stipe changes it to the more cruel, another prop has occupied my time, driving home the fact that the relationship was nothing more than a placeholder until something better came along. He said that the song isn't about one specific person, but more about the concept of being in a destructive relationship. He sings, "This one goes out to the one I love. This one goes out to the one I've left behind. Another prop has occupied my time. This one goes out to the one I love. The song ends with that one-word chorus, fire. And the whole thing is only 3 minutes and 17 seconds in total, with some of the most bruising, misunderstood lyrics in rock, wrapped up in an undeniably powerful pop package. The Document album went to number 10 on the Billboard 200 chart, taking R.E.M. from being college rock darlings to major players on the rock landscape, influencing countless other bands along the way and paving the way for alternative rock bands to become real contenders in the rock world. After its release, Peter Buck famously said that the band was the acceptable edge of the unacceptable stuff, a quote that perfectly summed up their unique position on the musical landscape. R.E.M. were the bridge between underground college rock and mainstream success, a band that presented complex alternative ideas in a way that popular culture could get behind. They offered a taste of the alternative world to mainstream audiences without fully conforming to pop conventions, a boundary between the mainstream and the avant-garde. They became the blueprint for so many bands, including Nirvana, a band who did what R.E.M. did before them, maintained their artistic integrity while finding massive commercial success, cleverly navigating the music industry while never sacrificing the stuff about themselves that made them so cool. R.E.M. have sold more than 90 million albums worldwide. When David Frick reviewed the Document album for Rolling Stone, he said that it was the sound of R.E.M. on the move, which was perfectly put. And for his part, Michael Stipe has come to terms with what people take from the cold-blooded lyrics in The One I Love. He said that at this point, it's probably just better that people think it's a love song. So what other songs sound like they're about one thing, but are really about something else? Something to think about. Until next time. I'm Janda, and this has been Behind the Song. If you like this episode, give it a like and subscribe to the channel, or better yet, tell a friend. Special thanks, as always, to Christian Lane for the music you hear on these podcast episodes. You can find me on the air at 97.1 FM The Drive in Chicago and at WDRV.com. On the way, much more classic rock and roll.